The game's over, but Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney are still throwing jabs. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. A bonus episode here after Brian Kelly met with reporters on Tuesday, as did Dabo Swinney. Just a quick catch up. If you're an everydayer, you know this, and thank you for being an everydayer. But if you're not, normally coaches have their press conferences on Monday. It's their opportunity to meet with the media after their Saturday games and recap the game, preview the next week, and so on. With Labor Day weekend, many coaches bumped that Monday availability to Tuesday, and that's what happened with both Clemson and LSU. So Dabo Swinney met with reporters on Tuesday morning, and then Brian Kelly's press conference every week is at noon. So Brian Kelly met at noon. And the internet was abuzz because when Dabo Swinney met with reporters, he was asked about how he would grade his team's performance against LSU in the season opener. So, a bit of a one-off kind of question, sort of a school analogy for Dabo. And we understand how the game played out. LSU won the game. It was a game that was low scoring, 17-10, a game where Clemson had a halftime lead. LSU outscored Clemson in the second half, 14-0, blanked him in the second half. And this is how Dabo chose to answer that question.
It's like getting the final exam day one of class. They made a 65, we made a 58. Neither one of us were great.
They made a 65. We made a 58. Neither of us were great. Brian Kelly responded. You'll hear that in a second. The first part of what Dabo said makes a lot of sense. It's like getting a final exam on your first day of class. First game of the season, and both teams really challenged themselves. While a lot of teams were out there playing Long Island and New Mexico and Toledo and directional schools that some of them, you and I, despite being diehard college football fans, probably couldn't even name their mascot. And I've said this, respect to LSU Clemson, Alabama Florida State, Ohio State Texas, Miami Notre Dame. Respect to those programs that said, you know what, we're in. Let's go play a game that's going to challenge us, that people want to see, that's going to be great theater, great television. We might lose. And my hope is, I know I'm deviating, but my hope is at the end of the season, the committee doesn't punish teams for playing these games. I'll come back to that later. But all that to say, I agree with the first part of what he said. It's a good analogy. It's like having the final exam on the first day of class. So I've said it. I've said Saturday in Clemson, South Carolina, will be LSU's most difficult game of the season. On the road, that environment, first game, 5 new starters on the offensive line, all the new starters on defense that we've talked about. That, all of that against a playoff team from a year ago that won the ACC and has more returning production than any team in America. I think that's LSU's toughest game of the year. I think that's tougher than going to Oxford, Tuscaloosa, before we even knew about them getting just run over by Florida State. Tougher than Norman, Oklahoma, tougher than home games against Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M. I think LSU played its toughest game of the season on Saturday. So I agree with Dabo in the first part. Man, it's like having your final exam on the first day of class. It's this second part that I got a problem
It's like getting the final exam day one of class. They made a 65, we made a 58. Neither one of us were great.
I'm sorry. Neither one of us were great. If you care to, look at the final 2 offensive snaps for Clemson. On both plays, Clemson had wide open receivers that would have scored a touchdown had Kate Klubnik thrown it to him. He didn't because LSU's pressure forced him into errant throws. LSU shut out Clemson in the second half. LSU held Clemson to 12 rushing yards in the second half after having 19 rushing yards in the first half. LSU dominated the line of scrimmage. Garrett Nussmeier was sacked one time the entire game. He was barely pressured. The game plan was great, and they executed in a really tough road environment. 65-58? Brian Kelly was asked about Dabo's grading in his presser, and Brian Kelly took the opportunity to body check Dabo Swinney against the glass.
Well, I thought we dominated him in the second half. So he's either a really good grader for giving himself a 58, or he's a really hard grader on us, or he didn't see the second half, which that might be the case. He might not have wanted.
Oh. He might not have seen the second half. He might not have wanted to. I want to give Brian Kelly, by the way, Brian Kelly gave I'm looking at a 54-second answer to the question about Dabo and what grade he would give his team. I'm going to play the full thing for you here and just the whole answer. Everyone has seen that piece of it or heard that piece of it. The full answer was 54 seconds. I'm going to play the entire thing for you in just a quick second. But I want to give a hat tip to Brian Kelly for being willing to answer the question. I have said for a long time, I wish coaches approach press conferences more like WWE wrestlers approach their stand-ups, their promotions, because it would be a whole lot more fun if dudes actually said what was on their mind. As much as everybody hated Steve Spurrier, the truth is everybody hated losing to Steve Spurrier, and they resented the fact that he would go in front of a microphone and tell you he was going to whip you, and then he would do it. Brian Kelly could have shied away from that question. He could have taken the high road and said, I'm not sure what Coach Swinney said. It was a great game. We have a lot of respect for their team. That's a great team who I think might actually have a chance for the college football playoff as well, and maybe we'll see him on down the road. But I'd like to focus on my team. He could have said that, could have completely deflected it. He didn't. He took the opportunity after Dabo took a shot at his team to clap right back, and I love the fact that he was willing to do it. He stood up for his guys. He made a point, and he made a point in the face of a coach that I believe is completely insecure. I'm going to get to that in just a quick second. But this was Brian Kelly's full 54 seconds responding to Dabo Swinney.
Well, I thought we dominated him in the second half. So he's either a really good grader for giving himself a 58, or he's a really hard grader on us, or he didn't see the second half, which that might be the case. He might not have wanted to see the second half. So, again, look, this is all past. We're much more focused on Louisiana Tech, to be quite honest with you. And Clemson is a darn good football team. That's a really good, that's a top-notch team, and they're going to be a team in the hunt for a playoff picture, and we hope we are too. But it was only one game, so I don't know if he's a hard grader or an easy grader, but I like the way we played in the second half.
The full context of the answer is what could have stood alone as the solo answer. But that preamble, that 15 to 20 seconds at the beginning where he decided to close fist punch Dabo Swinney right between the eyes, like straight jab right to the nose and bloodied him up a little bit, I applaud him for it. Because Dabo is someone who gets high on his supply and does things like that. Oh, by the way, let me not forget to mention that it was Dabo Swinney a week ago who reported A.J. Halsey to the NCAA. And I mentioned this in a previous episode, so I'm not being hypocritical. A.J. Halsey needed to sit the first half by rule. No problem with that. The problem I have is that Dabo held on to that information and only decided to make it public the Wednesday before the game after Halsey spent all of fall camp and game week preparing to be the starter. That's my problem. That's gamesmanship at its best or its worst, however you want to define it. But that's Dabo. And he thinks there's nothing wrong with that because he's one of the most disingenuous people you could actually see based on what he purports to be and what he actually is. And the evidence supports it. Now, I have another feeling on Brian Kelly and how he is perceived. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Locked on LSU, your team every day. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, but that day is no longer here because the NFL season is upon us. And my goodness, why in the world would you do anything other than bet with our friends over at FanDuel? The NFL season is here. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets across the app. Did you hear me? Bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel. Fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's show is also brought to you by Rougiette Ready. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and more present in the moment. So head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. So this whole spat with Brian Kelly unfolded. Brian Kelly and Dabo Swinney unfolded on Tuesday. And it's interesting to me because just before I was about to go on air on my radio show on Tuesday, I got a tweet from a guy named Michael who said, oddly, this is the most likable Kelly has ever been to me. Gee, I wonder why that could be. Maybe it's because on this Tuesday, Brian Kelly got a haircut. Maybe he was wearing a new sand-colored sport coat. Maybe it's because Brian Kelly was working on his diction and trying to sound more Midwestern, less Southern, Midwestern, East Coast, Northeast Coast. Whatever. It's because he won the game. What do you mean it's the most likable Brian Kelly has sounded to you? That's because that's all rooted in the success or failure of your team. Do you realize I spent a decade covering Les Miles, and for the first part of his career, when LSU won a national championship in 2007, beat Nick Saban in his first year in Baton Rouge, and beat Nick Saban in 2010 and 2011. I mean, the bottom line is he had a winning record against Nick Saban until the rematch in the national championship game. LSU fans were wearing shirts that said, "Our idiot is smart, just beat your genius." Like, LSU fans rallied around Les. They called him the Hat, the Mad Hatter, eating grass, all that stuff. When did that change? When did he become a bumbling buffoon with a weird diction and the high hat and all that stuff? When he wasn't winning as much. When he wouldn't modernize the offense. It's simple. Fans ebb and flow at the whims of their team based on what the results are. People are liking Brian Kelly today because LSU just went on the road after pounding their chest for 9 months talking about 1-0 and beat Clemson and rubbed Clemson's nose in it. They played great defense. They were elite despite Dabo's grade. Are you kidding me? Garrett Nussmeier won the SEC Player of the Week award. Todd McShay on his podcast said Garrett Nussmeier solidified himself as the top quarterback prospect in this upcoming draft and proved why he will be an elite NFL quarterback. Like, the bouquets are everywhere right now. It's easy to be on board with your guy, but I'm here to tell you, as someone who listens to Brian Kelly, like every single word, I mean, every single word, it's my job. Every single word that man speaks into a microphone, I listen to it. Most of the time, I'm in the room sitting 10 feet from him. I've heard everything he's ever said, and I'm here to tell you, what Brian Kelly did today, said today, ain't no different than anything he's done since the day he was hired. No different than what he did when he was at Notre Dame. Remember when Notre Dame played Florida State and they won a close game, and they asked him about his team, and he said, "I'm for the execution of my team." He totally bungled that joke of John McKay from back in the day where he was asked about the execution of his team and said, "I'm for it." Like, he tells bad dad jokes that aren't funny. They rarely land, but it's corny because he's 63 years old and it's like your dad telling a joke. But he's a coach that'll actually stand at a podium and answer a question when it's asked. And he's not afraid to be self-deprecating at times. Like, I find all that really refreshing. As someone who spends his career sitting in press conferences, listening to coaches give me the same old boring, cliched coach speak nonsense, that's a dude that will actually answer a question and will stand behind whatever he says. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. But if you think today is a different version of Brian Kelly, you're missing the ball. Like, they threw a 68-mile-an-hour breaking ball, and you were expecting a 100-mile-an-hour heater, and you swung over the top of that thing, and you spun into the other batter's box on a knee. That's who he is, man. Like, for better or worse, I'll tell you this much. What you see with Brian Kelly is what you get. That's him. What you see with Dabo Swinney feels very disingenuous. And that was never more clear than it was on Tuesday with Dabo's jab and the way Brian Kelly responded to it. Now, I, for one, am glad I don't have to think about Clemson again until maybe January, because I do think Clemson is a fantastic football team. And despite my gripes with him, I think Dabo is a very good football coach who's obviously built a fantastic program that's won a couple of national titles and played for a couple of more. He's great objectively. His record is objectively great and deserves credit and praise for the program he's built. And I do think Clemson is the best team in the ACC, and I think there's a good chance we may see LSU Clemson again. And what I told you before this game was played was that I didn't like LSU in the game because of all the circumstance. On the road, veteran against a veteran team, veteran quarterback, 5 new starters on LSU's offensive line, all the new starters on the defensive side of the ball. It's just if it was week 2 or 3, I'd feel different. If it was in Baton Rouge, I'd feel different. I told you all that. But I also said, they play again in January. I think LSU dog walks Clemson. And I would love to see the rematch because I think LSU, if they play again in January, will dog walk Clemson because LSU's better at the line of scrimmage. And every mistake we saw LSU make in that game on Saturday, every one of them is correctable. And they'll correct it when they play Southeastern and when they play Louisiana Tech, and they'll go on a run and they're going to make the playoff. And when they do, if they're peaking at that time, healthy and peaking, and they see Clemson again, look out. Because the final score many of us thought it should have been if LSU playing a clean game, we'll see it the next time out. All right, that's going to do it for us here on this bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. Hey, do me a favor. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day.